It's December 11th, 1941, and the sun is just beginning to rise over the tiny, battered atoll of Wake Island. The air is thick with tension, the kind that makes your skin prickle and your heart pound in your chest. For the men stationed here, just a handful of Marines, a few Navy personnel, and a ragtag group of civilian contractors, every day since Pearl Harbor has felt like a countdown. They know the Japanese are coming. They just don't know when, or how hard. The defenders of Wake Island are outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time. Their only real hope lies in the 12 stubby, rugged Grumman F-4F Wildcats parked on the Coral airstrip. These planes are their only eyes, their only claws. The pilots, young, brash, and running on adrenaline, have been flying constant patrols, scanning the endless blue for any sign of the enemy. Every engine cough, every radio crackle, could be the start of the end. Suddenly, the horizon erupts with the silhouettes of Japanese warships. The invasion force has arrived, cruisers, destroyers, transports, all bristling with guns and ambition. The defenders scramble. Sirens wail. Pilots sprint to their Wildcats, boots thudding on the coral, hands shaking as they strap in. There's no time for fear, only action. Major Paul Putnam, the squadron leader, barks into his radio. "Let's go, boys. This is it." The Wildcats roar down the strip, engines screaming, wheels barely leaving the ground before they're airborne. Below, the Japanese ships open fire, shells whistling overhead, geysers of water erupting around the island. The ground shakes. The air is filled with the staccato rattle of machine guns and the deep, thunderous booms of naval guns. The defenders dig in, praying the Wildcats can buy them a few more hours of life. In the sky, the 12 American pilots face impossible odds. They're up against dozens of enemy planes and the combined firepower of an entire fleet. But they have one advantage: desperation. They dive, swoop, and weave through flak and tracer fire, picking their targets with cold precision. Lieutenant David Cleaver lines up on a Japanese destroyer, the Kisaragi, and squeezes the trigger. His guns chatter, and a string of bullets rakes the deck. He pulls up, hard hammering, as the destroyer's anti-aircraft guns spit fire back at him. On the ground, the Marines watch in awe as the Wildcats press their attack. It's a David and Goliath battle, and for a moment, it looks like David might actually win. The Kisaragi, caught off guard by the ferocity of the attack, takes a direct hit from a 100-pound bomb dropped by one of the Wildcats. The bomb punches through the deck and detonates in the magazine. There's a split second of silence, then the destroyer erupts in a massive fireball, debris flying in all directions. The explosion is so violent that it lifts the Kisaragi out of the water, breaking her back and sending her to the bottom in minutes. The men on Wake Island cheer, their spirits soaring. They've just witnessed the impossible. 12 Wildcats, against all odds, have sunk a Japanese destroyer. It's the first time in the war that American aircraft have sunk a major Japanese warship. The message is clear: Wake Island will not go down without a fight. But the victory is short-lived. The Japanese regroup, their pride wounded and their anger stoked. They unleash a furious barrage on the island, pounding the defenders with everything they have. The airstrip is cratered, the barracks shattered, the defenders pushed to the brink. The Wildcats, now low on fuel and ammunition, are forced to land and rearm as best they can. Every minute on the ground is a gamble. Every second, they expect to see enemy troops storming the beach. Major Putnam gathers his pilots, their faces smeared with sweat and grime. "We did it," he says, voice hoarse. "But they'll be back. We have to hold." The men nod, exhausted but determined. They know reinforcements are supposed to be on the way, a relief force from Pearl Harbor, carrying more planes, more men, more hope. But the ocean is vast, and the enemy is relentless. As night falls, the defenders brace for another attack. The Japanese ships lurk just beyond the reef, their searchlights probing the darkness. The Wildcats are hidden, camouflaged with palm fronds and netting, their engines still warm from the day's battle. The pilots sleep in their cockpits, pistols at their sides, ready to scramble at a moment's notice. Every sound in the night is a potential threat. Every shadow could be the enemy. The next morning, The Japanese return, this time with even more force. Waves of bombers scream overhead, dropping their deadly cargo on the battered island. The Wildcats take to the air again, but their numbers are dwindling. One by one, the planes are shot down or destroyed on the ground. The pilots fight with everything they have, but the odds are impossible. Still, they refuse to give up. On December 15th, the defenders receive a message. The relief force has been recalled. There will be no rescue. The men of Wake Island are on their own. The news hits like a punch to the gut. Some curse, some weep, some simply stare into the distance, numb with shock. But there's no time for despair. The Japanese are preparing for a second, larger invasion. The defenders dig deeper, fortify their positions, and prepare for the final assault. The Japanese land in force on December 23rd. The battle is brutal, hand to hand, bayonet to bayonet. The defenders fight with a ferocity born of desperation, but they are overwhelmed. The Wildcats are gone, the airstrip lost, the island burning. Major Putnam is captured, along with the surviving pilots and Marines. The battle for Wake Island is over. But the story doesn't end there. News of the defenders' stand, and the sinking of the Kisaragi, spreads like wildfire across America. For a nation still reeling from Pearl Harbor, Wake Island becomes a symbol of hope, of resistance, of the unbreakable American spirit. The men who fought there are hailed as heroes, their sacrifice inspiring a new wave of determination and resolve. The Japanese, meanwhile, are forced to reckon with the cost of their victory. The loss of the Kisaragi is a blow to their pride and a warning that the Americans will not be easily defeated. The battle for Wake Island becomes a rallying cry, a lesson in the power of courage and the price of underestimating your enemy. In the months that follow, the survivors of Wake Island endure unimaginable hardship as prisoners of war. They are beaten, starved, and forced to work in brutal conditions. Some never make it home. But those who do carry the scars, and the memories, of their stand on that tiny atoll for the rest of their lives. The sinking of the Kisaragi is studied by military strategists on both sides. For the Americans, it's proof that even a small, determined force can strike a devastating blow. For the Japanese, it's a reminder that victory is never guaranteed, no matter how overwhelming your advantage. The lessons of Wake Island echo through the rest of the war, shaping tactics, strategy, and morale. Years later, historians would debate the decisions made on both sides. Could the relief force have saved Wake Island? Should the Japanese have pressed their attack sooner? The answers are lost to history, buried beneath the waves along with the wreck of the Kisaragi. But one thing is certain: the courage of the men who fought there changed the course of the war. The story of Wake Island is not just a tale of bombs and bullets. It's a story of leadership under fire, of ordinary men rising to extraordinary heights. Major Putnam and his pilots didn't have the best planes, the most ammunition, or the strongest defenses. What they had was each other, and the unshakable belief that they could make a difference, even in the face of impossible odds. As the war raged on, the memory of Wake Island inspired countless others to fight, to endure, to hope. The image of 12 Wildcats diving through flak to sink a destroyer became a symbol of what was possible when courage and teamwork met adversity head-on. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always a chance to turn the tide. In the end, the battle for Wake Island was not just about territory or tactics. It was about the human spirit, the refusal to surrender, the willingness to sacrifice, the power of unity in the face of overwhelming force. The men who fought there may have lost the island, but they won something far greater, a place in history, and a legacy that endures to this day. So the next time you hear the roar of a fighter plane, or see the stars and stripes fluttering in the wind, remember the 12 Wildcats of Wake Island. Remember the men who stood their ground, who fought with everything they had, and who showed the world that even the smallest spark of hope can ignite a fire that burns through the darkness. That is the true legacy of Wake Island, a testament to the power of courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds of brotherhood. And as we look back on that fateful December, we are reminded that history is not just a series of dates and battles. It is the story of people, real, flawed, and brave, who faced the impossible and dared to fight anyway. The defenders of Wake Island teach us that no matter how dire the odds, no matter how great the enemy, there is always a way forward. All it takes is the will to stand, to fight, and to believe. In the end, the story of Wake Island is not just about war. It's about what it means to be human. To face fear, to endure loss, to find hope in the darkest of nights. It's a story that belongs to all of us, a reminder that even in our weakest moments, we are capable of greatness. And that, perhaps, is the greatest victory of all.